Viewers, in yet another special edition, we're going to focus on how can this current generation and the future generations go back to its links, its roots, and connect more with Bharat. On the occasion of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh completing 100 years, the Sarsang Chalak, Shri Mohan Bhagwat, held a 3-day lecture series to lay out the 100-year journey of the organization and the Sangh's vision of Bharat, highlighting the strides the nation has made in social welfare and economic growth. Mohan Bhagwat emphasized the importance of a cultural renaissance in Bharat to complement the nation's rise on the global stage. Mohan Bhagwat spoke on a few main issues, and let's try and understand them one by one, clearly focusing on Bharat, its roots, education, and of course the language of the ancients, that is Sanskrit. Number one is the Gurukul system of education, where Mohan Bhagwat said, and I quote, Gurukul education should be integrated into the mainstream, not replaced. Gurukul education is not about going and living in an ashram, but learning about the nation's traditions. All the information should be given to children about the past so that pride can be instilled. Now, what is or what was Gurukul education? It dates back to perhaps the Vedic period and thereafter, where students lived with their teacher in an ashram or a forest hermitage. So it was a distance and in-person university, huge ones, which were run by one particular teacher, Rishi, sage. Now, education encompassed Vedic learning, including mathematics, astronomy, medicine, arts, and physical training. Emphasis was placed on discipline, humility, respect, self-reliance, and service to society, or the Seva Bhav. Students participated in daily chores around the Gurukul, including cooking, cleaning, gathering firewood. So maintenance, upkeep, this inherent aspect of Swachhata was instilled in them. Guru to Shishya, guidance was provided not just in academics, but also in moral and spiritual growth. It was based on oral tradition or Shruti, including memorization, recitation, and discussion, strengthening critical thinking. The word Upanishad, come sit here and listen, started from this practice itself. Now, another aspect for a cultural revival that Mohan Bhagwat raised was the learning of Sanskrit. He said, and I quote, I am not in favor of making Sanskrit compulsory, but it is important to understand the country. And if you want to understand your tradition and know Bharat, knowledge of Sanskrit is very important. We shouldn't rely on translations, as many have errors. In order to access the original sources, learning Sanskrit is necessary. Now, why is the impetus on Sanskrit? The RSS views Sanskrit as the living link to Bharat's ancient civilization, the actual roots of our nation. The RSS believes Sanskrit acts as a unifying linguistic thread. It also sees Sanskrit as a language of Hindu Dharma and the medium of Vedic knowledge, more importantly, even leading towards Vedanta, the Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and also the Bhagavatam. The RSS emphasizes that Sanskrit can rejuvenate Bharatiya arts, literature, and rituals. It sees it as a medium of cohesive cultural nationalism against Western dominance and highlights Sanskrit as a precise language with a potential in computational sciences. Mind you, the original first machine language based itself on Sanskrit because it is the most scientific language, the one that works most with this computer, that's the human brain. Now, it is a very holistic view to reimagine our education system and cultural standing on a global stage. But what are the challenges and opportunities associated with this? Can the politics be set aside to understand the intrinsic value of the issues to bolster Bharat, to not just create a Vikasit Bharat, but also a Bharat that is linked and connected to its ancient roots? Let's try and decode that further with very, very intelligent minds who are joining us on this very special broadcast. And I thank all of them right at the outset. Viewers, Professor P.R. Mukund, Professor Emeritus, Rochester Institute of Technology. Let's start with Gurukul. Professor P.R. Mukund, your thoughts. Do you agree with Mohan Bhagwat ji when he says that we need to go back to Sanskrit and also instill this Gurukul style of education into our modern education system?
Thank you for inviting me, and my pranams to your other panelists. I totally agree, and actually I would like to share with you very briefly something that actually worked for me. as you know, I used to be engineering professor for many decades. And in the university where I used to teach in the US, in 2003, we started like a Gurukul. And the way it was done was that we had an interfaith chapel. So we'd meet every Friday at 4 o'clock. And we would discuss our philosophy, and not just philosophy, but how to apply it to their daily lives, because their interest, the young people were actually interested in making a good career, living good lives, and being successful, and so on. I've been doing this for 22 years now, and I can tell you there are hundreds of my shishyas all over the place, and it actually works to the extent that many of these people have actually completely changed their lifestyle, and they're actually part of the trust that we run.
Professor P.R. Mukund, viewers, has also worked hard, toiled hard over the last 18 years to translate more than 3,000 manuscripts from very, very dilapidated condition to try and preserve them so that they last for the next 500 years. One of that is also Madhvacharya's work, which he's worked very hard, and he's got a beautiful library in Udupi. So his contribution is immense towards preserving our ancient text and scripture. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly, Bhagavan describes who's a guru. And not anybody and everybody can call themselves a guru. They have to come from a parampara. So the idea is that the parampara of the guru and the shishya is that you have to be able, and the knowledge has to be passed down from someone who has attained that status of knowledge and then has the ability to pass on that knowledge. Not anybody and everybody can be a guru. So that's why Gurukuls in the ancient times also had a certain level of prestige, saying who are you learning from and where are you learning from. That's another part. The other thing is, and Professor Mukund, you can throw more light, Sanskrit as a language which not only activates all the nerve cells in the tongue and works this muscle to the level to which that the brain is coded best. True or false? And last time when we spoke, you said you have to learn Sanskrit if you need to know what knowledge of the past is, knowledge of the ancients is. And there again I correct myself. It's not ancient. It's still there. It's perennial. It's not old. It still exists. So, Professor Saab.
Well, to start with, Sridhara, I have to do this.
Yes, please.
So, what does Sridhara mean? So dharana in our learning system, right? There are 3 steps normally that they talk about: Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. But the 4th thing is dharana, when something becomes you, part of you. So Shri Tattva is that energy that overcomes inertia. Right? So, Sridharji, I have to do this before I say anything else. So now, coming back to your question, I have to tell you a little incident from my school days. And Sanskrita was my second language, not very good at it. But there's one section in our exam which was translation from Sanskrita to Kannada, which is my mother tongue, and then Kannada to Sanskrita. It was so easy to do the Kannada to Sanskrita translation because all you had to do is take what was in Kannada script, put it in Devanagari, and add some aha here and there, and we would get 80% of the credit, right? That just goes to show that we already are speaking Sanskrita. We already know quite a bit. We just don't know that we know. That is our problem. Right? And that actually goes back to what Sridharji said, which is that awareness. I think awareness and acceptance is probably the first step in doing anything else, right? That's one thing. Second thing is that I don't know what Sanskrita does to the brain and all that. I'm not an expert in that field. But I can tell you this much, which is that, again, not my theory, is that Vishnu Sahasranama, which of course is in Sanskrita, if you look at the entire Vishnu Sahasranama, if you just chant it once, just chant it properly once, they say that all the nadis in our sharira will get purified, right? And the thing is, it's not just knowing, if you chant it, understanding what those words mean, of course you get elevated benefit from that. But even if you have no idea, you don't know, you just chant it properly, that itself has a lot of benefit. this goes to show that the sounds and the chandas, that is the meter and all these things, are so very scientifically formulated that you don't have to be an expert to take advantage of that. After all, if I want to use a cell phone, I don't need to know how to design the chip inside the thing to use it. Similarly here, I think that what we should promote is starting with that. Let me just say one thing very quickly. When I started you can call it Gurukula, you can call it something else, but one of the things we used to do in that interfaith chapel is there would be a bunch of students who would come. We would discuss things. No puja, nothing, just discussion for 1 hour. But at the end, all of us would sit down and chant Vishnu Sahasranama jointly. And my children who are born and brought up in the US, every single day they chant Vishnu Sahasranama. And the question is, why do they do that? Not because I tell them, because they have found out that there's advantages from doing that. That energy will actually not only affect your physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and it even affects all the things we do every day in our lives, ordinary things that we do. And all of my shishyas, the reason they stick with me is for one thing only. They're all professionals. So they're CEOs of companies, some cardiologists, all kinds of people are there. The reason they stick with me is because they found that there's a return on investment in understanding these things and spending some time. Without return on investment, nobody is going to do anything. So my suggestion is that we have to inculcate this knowledge in the teachers and the professors in schools and universities. Because after all, that was not part of my job. I just did that because I benefited personally, and my thing is, let me share it with my students. And this applies to management. One of my students, who is a very successful entrepreneur, when I asked him once, how did you succeed? He said, just by applying some of the things you taught me in this domain, And the thing is that we have to let people know how you can apply. That's very important, how you can apply to their daily life. So if we do that, these gurukuls in a new form,
right?
I don't have to sit under a tree, and I don't have to grow a beard or something, right?
Right.
In the current setting, current setup, we can definitely start gurukuls, but that drive and that effort has to come from people like me in this profession, who are in the teaching research profession. If we do that, I think there's going to be complete revolution.
Right.
And we don't even have to be sitting here talking about it, because that will become a part of life in Bharat.
Right.